We can't stop talking about it because we have a long way to go.
Welcome to the Last Catherine podcast.
Hi, welcome to Last Catherine. I'm Pallas.
I'm Robert John Hadfield.
This is
and
Red.
We have a special guest with us today, squishing her sandwich. So I've got a what's in the blank here that's kind of, I thought this was just kind of an interesting thing I'd never thought about before. So, while many stars and moons are christened with female names, blank is the only planet in our solar system given the name of a female goddess.
Venus.
Yeah, Venus. You ever think about that, though? That's the only planet that's named after a female goddess. A little while ago, you suggested there's something in the news right now that we wanted to talk about. And today we have Matt that's going to spend a little bit of time talking with us. And Matt, maybe you could introduce to us what the issue is or what's been going on in the news here.
Oh, sure. So I'm sure most of you know by now that Bloomingdale's put out an ad that the copy on it said, spike your best friend's eggnog when they're not looking. And then there's an image of a woman that's kind of like looking away from a man that's looking at her. So,
and he's not just looking at her.
he
has a smirk, sort of.
He's leering at her. Probably is
it's an uncomfortable gaze.
He's kind of cut half off in the image, a little bit off, so it's kind of like he's creeping into the image.
Yeah,
I mean that's the feeling you get.
He's a good-looking guy, beautiful woman. I read down at the bottom of the ad, it I think is selling. It was hard to read, but it looked like it was selling the outfit that she was wearing is what it looked like.
I mean, that's what Bloomingdale's, the clothing store. And it was in their holiday catalog. So
the immediate thing that everybody started saying was, well, this is promoting rape or rape culture where and so the timing probably couldn't possibly be worse unless it was 2 months ago. I mean, just because this is all around what happened with Bill Cosby. You know,
right?
That the fact that he had done what he did, or what was coming out in the news with that, made this probably that was on the front of everybody's mind. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we were talking. What is your feedback, or what are your thoughts on this whole thing, Pallas? What was your response when you first saw it, and what do you think about it?
Well, my immediate response was, "What the heck are they trying to say?" You know, I tend to take a view of, I don't tend to attack. Hopefully, that's my goal anyway. And so I tend to take a explain yourself a little bit more sort of perspective. And that was my thought is like, what are you trying to say? Because it looks like from the picture that you're trying to say that this guy should spike his best friend's, this girl, her drink. And then because getting women drunk, the idea of getting women drunk and then just like them making poor decisions together, like you just get drunk together and make poor decisions, that's something that's sort of a pervasive attitude or has been in our culture, that's promoting that. So that was sort of my thought, was like, well, this is what it seems like. What'd you guys intend? Because I can't imagine Bloomingdale's was intending to say, hey guys, go out and get your best friend who's a girl drunk so that you guys can have sex. I don't think Bloomingdale's really cares but sex sells, and so maybe that was something that they were trying to be clever, or maybe they were just saying your friend needs to have more fun, get drunk. But also there again, don't spike anybody's drink. Don't spike your friend's drink. Well, offer your friend a drink. Don't spike their drink.
That was kind of my initial reaction too. Was this is a really weird ad. The words in and of themselves are not that like overtly, rapey or aggressive. They're just kind of weird because, if you just read that, spike your best friend's eggnog when they're not looking, they're specifically choosing the word they for one thing. They're not saying spike her eggnog, so there's some ambiguity there. So apparently that ad is meant to appeal to anyone, your best friend. As a man, my best friend could be a guy, could be a woman. As a woman, her best friend could be a woman, whatever it is. So The words themselves are just weird because why are you spiking your friend's drink to begin with? But there's not any real like sexuality being implied to my mind because they're choosing an ambiguous pronoun. So then in the context of the man and the woman, obviously we're reading even more into it. And was that their intention? I don't know. I feel like it was a bad decision. I don't think it was intended to portray date rape or anything like that, though. I mean, that's just my feeling.
I kind of give people the benefit of the doubt. When you look at their parent organization, which I think is Macy's, where I believe the majority of the employees of Macy's are female anyway, and they have at least half of the board of Macy's is female, would they really be doing that, intentionally? And so I, depending on your frame of reference, will depend on how you interpret that ad. And so when we all are familiar with what had happened recently with Bill Cosby, we see an ad like that, we see the images, it's the first thing that comes to our mind when people at Bloomingdale's, when they're making the ad, could have been even females making the ad for all we know. We don't have any idea. We know that a large portion of their employees are, that they were just making a joke about, I mean, how many, weren't there some teen movies years ago that they were at the school dance and they went over and poured liquor?
I mean,
when nobody's looking, let's go pour some
classic like 80s movie.
Yeah, it's just a silly thing that people would say. It's holidays, man. Go spike their eggnog, and it's a funny thing that people say. And they were like, hey, these holidays, when nobody's looking, go spike the eggnog. And unfortunately, it was put in a picture where you had this guy that was leering at this woman, and we're all already thinking of what we've been hit with over the head, especially with the Bill Cosby thing. Plus, it's been going on we've been hearing news stories about date rape now with drugs and things for a while, that we instantly go there when it's possible that the people that made it never even occurred to them.
That was a poor decision. Mm-hmm. That was in very bad taste, because that picture is a creepy picture. I mean, he is leering at her and she's like off looking somewhere else. So the implication with the copy, with the picture, whoever made that decision is the one who maybe should be like, why did you make that decision? Not the copywriter, not the person who maybe took that picture, but the person who coupled it together. Because the implication is that he's going to spike her drink, and then what is the intention? Yeah.
Well, the really sad
thing, she's already having fun in the picture. It's not to, if she was like, whoops, if she was like sitting there going, like, and he's like, and she's like, oh, I'm so depressed, and he's like, spike your best friend's drink, because she's gonna have more fun. But she's like having fun. She's like, I'm wearing an awesome outfit and I'm having so much fun, and he's like, I'm gonna spike my best friend's drink.
Yeah. Well, and the really sad thing to me is that nobody, like you said, is really, or you said, whoever said, is nobody's giving anybody like the benefit of the doubt. This could have easily just been a really stupid oversight. And now everybody's like, fire someone. Who's getting fired? Who are we throwing under the bus?
That's so frustrating to me.
And it's like, this happens all the time. Everybody's always out for blood. It's like, who can we burn and tear down and string up, like, for making a mistake? Everybody makes mistakes. Like, everybody does something stupid. Everybody doesn't realize, maybe that wasn't the best idea. People say things, do things unintentionally.
They didn't mean it that way, but then it's so glaringly obvious.
Yeah, right.
But
so let's ruin someone's life.
Right, because that's the thing, is like, the copywriter didn't write that to be rapey, I'm sure. The person who took the photograph didn't take that photograph to be rapey. But the CEO or whoever who approved it, they should have been the one thinking about it. But we tend to say, fire the copywriter. That's what I'm seeing all over Twitter, is like the copywriter should lose their job. Why should that person didn't write it off, didn't say, yeah, I approve that. That's definitely a good decision to put that creepy guy staring at that girl. Can we stop putting creepy guys staring at girls, period? That doesn't make me want to buy those clothes. I don't want, oh man, this is going to make me get a bunch of creepers. Yeah, next holiday party. That's what I want.
But, my frustration with these things is, once again, we're all human beings, and I've done my fair share of really stupid things, and fortunately my stupid things are not in a big magazine for millions of people to see them. I personally have a hard time believing most of the time in our culture, where we're very sensitive about these things, especially in an organization that is so predominantly run by women, that there was any sort of, that it was just kind of like, oh my gosh, why didn't we see that? And then, but our reaction is fire, 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 and ruin people's lives. We can't let something like that go. It can't possibly be innocent. Somebody must burn for this. Instead of guys, somebody should have seen that. That was pretty stupid.
Yeah.
And yet we have to hang somebody over everything that happens anymore.
Well, and Bloomingdale's did apologize for it, but some of the stuff I've seen in reaction to Bloomingdale's apology is too little too late, Bloomingdale's. Like, the damage has already been done. Like, why are we demonizing everybody? Like, they apologized, They're being dumb, and they're like, I'm sorry, that was a terrible decision on our part. I don't know.
Well, and it points to the bigger issue, which is this idea of the rape culture. Like, everybody is pointing to this, not everybody, but most people are pointing to this ad as this embodiment of this idea of the rape culture that is our country. And to me, like, when you're approaching a situation with this idea of like a rape culture, then you're going to see it everywhere. Like, you're going to point out every little thing. And so, for me, it just becomes dangerous to put these heavy labels on things like that, because, all you're going to do is look for evidence to support that. Yeah. It's like, hey, anything that I see that I can remotely construe as, rape culture is rape culture. And personally, I think we live obviously within a culture that has a lot of gender inequality. Men have it easier. And, that's sad. But do we live in a rape culture? I don't think so, because I think the vast majority of people in this world, or not this world necessarily, I'm just talking about our country, the vast majority of people in our country would condemn rape. And to me, that means we don't live in a rape culture. So.
Well, and then if you look up the definition of rape culture, though, and we could do that right now, but I agree with the statements that fall under that. Maybe you could look it up real quick. Statements that define the definition of rape culture. It's like a society that X, Y, and Z. And I, last time I checked, I agreed with those things. But the word rape culture, using the word rape is very intense. And saying our culture is one of rape culture has an implication that people are somehow in leagues with rapists or promoting rape and
that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean.
And so I'm it's really hard because I don't know who coined the phrase, and I don't know why they chose to make it so intense. They might have chose to make it so intense so that it was in our faces, because we do react to that negatively and positively and negatively. I mean, like a positive being, yeah, we live in a rape culture. Negative being, crazy feminists think we live in a rape culture, right? And so it's not really doing justice to the actual definition of it, and it's putting up a defensive wall to people who feel like, oh, well, I don't agree with rape, and so don't say I am promoting a rape culture. Right. So
here's a wiki for it. In feminist theory, rape culture is a setting in which rape is pervasive and normalized due to societal attitudes about gender and sexuality. Now, I found this other graphic here that talks a little bit about that. And you want to take a break for a second?
I just want to stand up and bounce her.
Okay. They make there's this other graphic here that makes a point that, well, a lot of rape cases aren't being reported. A lot of people don't take people that report rape seriously. Right. And that's all part of why this is seen as a rape culture. And I just can't help but we tend to see what we surround ourselves with. And I'll give you an example that has nothing to do with anything. You seen the face on Mars?
Yeah.
Everybody, if you've seen that picture of Mars and there's a face, well, why do we see a face? Because that's what we look for. Our brains are wired a certain way that when we are constantly seeing things, that when we're bombarded by things, we start to notice similar things. So, for example, I bet you...
We create patterns.
Yeah, I bet you when you had your baby, you started noticing things around the city that were baby-related that had always been there, but you didn't see them until you didn't notice. And you're like, oh my gosh, this entire time there was a daycare center right there and I never saw it before. Amazing how all these things are happening right when I have a bit. Well, no, it's not amazing. They were always there. There were always people pushing strollers. There were always people, but you now are tuned into that thing. And so when you are so overcome by something, you tend to see it. And so when we see Mars, we see the shape on there, and because our brain is tuned to be looking for faces and things that we recognize, we see a face. And immediately we go, maybe there's people. No, and you realize then that the face is actually 800 miles long or something, and it's not really a face. There's no way it could be.
Well, and I'm sure that,
I see faces
just
everywhere. I see faces in trees. I see faces in rocks.
Because our brain works that way. Something that we are surrounded with, we find those patterns everywhere we go.
Right, and so I'm sure that my experience of rape culture is obviously defined by the people that I surround myself with. So I'm, I'd say I'm 90% certain that I don't know any men that have ever raped anyone, and I'm sure somebody would say, oh, you just don't know. Somebody did, I'm sure. But I mean, I know my friends and my family, and I feel like I know them all pretty well, and no one has ever accused them of anything. No one has ever gone to jail for anything, and that's a lot of people. So for me, it's like I feel like I should at least know one person that has at the very least been accused of that. If we're really existing in this extreme culture of violence, which
but on the other hand, you have a lot of female friends, and you know a lot of females who've not necessarily been raped but have had violence enacted towards them or groped or
that's
things
true.
like that.
But I think we need a distinction though, harassment, even sexual aggression that is not rape, there's a line, I guess, and using the word rape to define any sort of unacceptable sexual come on or whatever, I think is not appropriate, because that's not the definition of rape. And so when you say rape culture, it brings to mind a certain thing, which is forceful sexual assault. Right.
Yeah, and so I think if I understand it correctly, and I probably don't, so please correct me if I'm wrong, the rape culture idea is that all of those violent things towards women, the fact that, that's kind of accepted, boys will be boys sort of things, when a girl gets catcalled, when a girl gets groped, when a girl gets sent a picture of someone's penis when she's speaking, right on Twitter, if somebody's a very outward sexually person, but then somebody direct message her a picture of a penis, that kind of thing is supporting our culture, a culture of rape, I think is what they're trying to say, because it's normalizing sort of violence towards women or sexual drive towards women. But I wish we had a different term, because I agree. I think using the word rape diminishes the actual act of that. I think we are a culture that does promote the sexual sexualization of women,
for sure,
and the sexual and women being sexualized, people being sexually aggressive towards women. People make jokes about getting roofied, which I have been roofied, and that's horrible. Luckily,
what is that? I don't even know that term.
It's being slipped a roofie. It's Rohypnol. No,
I
can't remember the actual drug name, but it's I thought it was Rohypnol.
Is this
but
the date rape stuff?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Got it.
I was at a bar in New York, and some guy went and got me a drink, and luckily, like, I knew the guy who was the DJ at the time. It was a really small bar. I was with a girlfriend, and I had
Rohypnol.
Rohypnol. I had a pretty high tolerance at the time, so like she could tell. She was like, I was suddenly super smashed, and I only had a couple beers. So they locked me in a bathroom to keep me safe because they knew something was up with me. And then a friend let me stay at their house, and for days I was sick. I mean, I was like just sick for like 2 days. I could not eat. I couldn't drink. I was throwing up. I don't know what it does to other people, but that's what it did to me. And I can't remember anything past when I got it. But anyway, the point being is that there's jokes about that kind of stuff. There's even jokes about rape. And so I wish we had a different term, because when you throw out the word rape culture, you're using a word that is so violent and
that's
horrible.
all I'm saying. I'm not saying that there is not sexual violence against women, and that
it's promoted in our culture.
All I'm saying is that I think the term rape culture is misleading to people outside of that like sphere of awareness,
and people who have a tendency to get defensive,
right?
Which that's going to be the opposite of what we need. We don't want people to get defensive. We want to have an open dialogue. Like we don't want Bloomingdales to get defensive about this. We want to have an open dialogue with them so that they can see why this was upsetting, because that image is to me it promotes women sexual, maybe not aggression, but sexual prowling against women. This woman's just enjoying herself and doing whatever she's doing, and then he's got his eyes set on her.
Maybe
there's a
he's
predatory
already spiked it, and that's why she's having fun.
Yeah. There's a predatory nature.
So this gets back to something I said in a previous show, and it was that when you talk about the term, when it's something like that that's so serious, is so, I don't want to say, when it's used in everything, then it diminishes the real stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if everything is rape, then nothing is, and it loses its seriousness when it really, really happens.
And it's really
and that's why
serious.
when you say another term, you almost need that, because you diminish the seriousness of if every little sexual deviancy is considered rape somehow, then nothing's really, then real rape is not taken seriously anymore.
Yeah.
But I want to ask a question, getting back to this Bloomingdale's. If we had never heard of rape date drugs, we'd never heard of that happening. Okay, let's just say it had never been reported, or just whatever, we'd never heard of it. And if the whole thing with Bill Cosby had not happened this year, what would your reaction be when you saw that ad? If we'd never been exposed to the idea.
That's a really hard question, because I can't eliminate that experience from my mind.
My point is, and none of us can, but my point is, I have a strange feeling that if we'd never been exposed to those ideas, that ad wouldn't be seen that way.
Would have felt more innocent.
But my initial reaction to it was not, somebody drugging someone, date rape. My initial reaction to it was like you were saying, I'm gonna slip some booze into the punch kind of thing. Like my friend's being like a spoil sport, not having a good time.
Yeah.
Have some booze in the eggnog. Like that was my initial thought. And then of course, like looking at it, I was like, this is obviously weird.
The reason I asked that question is because it is, once again, I think that we have really, when people do react that way and see it that way, it's because of the experience that if the idea of date rape had never been introduced through drugs into our culture, I don't think that anybody would see that ad that way. It was something that because we're already thinking about that, we go, because we see the man and the woman and the this, and instead of where Matt and I, our first reaction is a certain thing. People that have.
We're also men, though.
That's
my point.
That's my thought.
And I'm not saying that that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that when your experience is a certain thing, and I am going along with this whole idea of it being inappropriate because of my experience because once somebody points that out, I go, that is really stupid that they let that go, because I start thinking about all the things that I have experience with. if I'd never had experience with those things and somebody said that's really inappropriate, I go, why? Well, because what if he was thinking about drugging her? And we were like, when has that ever happened? You know, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because we see it, we go there because we've heard of it so much, and so that's why I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt and think that most organizations, especially ones that are so heavily women, are so sensitive to those things anyway, that it had to be just a stupid oversight.
So yeah, I have a tendency to think that people make mistakes and make oversights and aren't thinking clearly more than they're doing something malicious. And whether that's right or wrong, and I know, people say people should have a responsibility. You know, people in the limelight have a responsibility on their behaviors because their behaviors are very out in the open. And like someone said on one of our podcasts that they disagreed with, we have a responsibility because we're speaking out loud. You know, and I totally agree. And humans are humans, you know, and they're going to make mistakes. So I think it's very, very unlikely that Bloomingdale's or the copywriter or the photographer did that maliciously. I think it's more likely that it was completely an oversight and someone wasn't thinking. Many people weren't thinking. But to your guys' point, I think the reason you wouldn't think this, if the Bill Cosby thing and Rohypnol, you'd never heard of it, is because you're men. I think that's probably true. Because as a woman, you're getting more violence towards you. I mean,
presumably men who don't want to drug a woman.
Right. You're men who don't want to drug a woman, and you're just men, and so therefore you would take it with more of an innocent look. But there again, that's my point, is that when people say, like on Twitter, why, I don't see anything wrong with that ad, and then they get attacked, that's not good. That's not nice. That's not helpful. Like,
it is not useful.
If somebody,
for sure.
if I said, well, I don't see any problem with that, and somebody was like, you're obviously a rapist, or you're promoting rape culture. It's like, whoa. Can you just calmly explain to me your perspective? So Bloomingdale's, can you calmly explain to us what made that decision happen?
Yeah,
the rest of us forgive?
I would like to actually know if there was any thought process behind that, other than Bloomingdale's just saying, "Hey, sorry, inappropriate. Didn't mean to create something that seemed like it was promoting rape." But okay, but what were like? Was there another intention behind it? Were you thinking like what was going on?
Was it just you thought it's kind of a funny thing to spike people's drinks like in the 80s and like at a prom or something, and so you're just trying to make a joke?
And it's very possible that's what it was. But and I think getting back to what you said a second ago, even if they came out and said, you know what, that's really what it was a silly thing and we were just trying to make a joke, there would be so many people, and this is where you lose people. They would go, well, too bad. It'd be like, well, look, they fessed up to it. They apologized.
Forgive each other for being
now
human.
They have to be hung and shot and all this other stuff. And you go, these are human beings.
Yeah, I mean,
they owned up to it, and if they explain it, well, okay.
Glass houses, people. Glass houses.
If you genuinely want to see change in the world, you can't be operating under the idea of too little, too late. Because it can't ever be too little, too late. Like, you need to give people the opportunity to see their mistakes, like, change, grow, develop as human beings. So the idea of too little, too late is just saying, you're never going to know any better, so,
I don't care about your perspective, which is just shutting the other person down,
And the majority of the United States, who sits kind of in the middle of everything, you lose them.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, I don't want to be part of this horrible negative dialogue, and it makes me uncomfortable, and I don't like any of this stuff, and so I don't listen to any of it anymore. And I think that's the danger you run into as you get this heated dialogue that takes place around these things. The danger you run into is you're really not moving your case forward. You're actually turning people off. And
you need to have.
This is my favorite show now because we get to listen to her the whole time.
You need to have like calm, respectful, honest discussion if you expect change. You can't attack people. If you attack people, you're never gonna win. Like, that's just it.
You're just gonna be talking to the people who agree with you.
Right. And that's the problem with things like Twitter, is that you just surround yourself with this little tiny bubble of people and you all agree, and so when something happens, you're all like, lynch them, like, because it's...
I saw a TED Talks the other day. I saw a TED Talks the other day that called Twitter a self-approval machine.
That doesn't work.
Said, isn't Twitter just a self-approval machine? Can you hand her a gourd?
She likes the gourds. She's nothing, anything I'm allowed to touch, I'm not excited about.
Yeah.
Something shiny.
That it was talking about. Well, honestly, it was talking about something that happened to this woman. I can't remember her name, but she tweeted this joke. She thought it was funny. She tweeted a joke before she got on a plane, and she was going to London or something. It was an 11-hour flight. It was seemingly a very racist joke. She said something about Africa. I'm going to Africa. Oh, she was going to Africa. I'm going to Africa. I hope I don't get AIDS. That no problem because I'm white. So she's not going to get AIDS. So what she meant by it was that white people have this very privileged bubble that they live in, and she was trying to make fun of that bubble. She only had like 140 Twitter followers or something. Anyway, she went to sleep on the flight. By the time she landed, she had already been fired. And Twitter, she was the number one trending person on Twitter because everyone had exploded and people were stringing her up and demanded her getting fired, and people were making money off of her. People were using it as, next time you're on a flight and you say something racist, use Expedia or whatever. Like, people were... It was it was huge. There was even a hashtag, wait till she can't wait till she lands or something. And people were just following this flight. So everyone was watching her life getting unraveled. And there she goes, she lands, and her life was over. And she was a PR person for some company. I mean,
it probably never even occurred to her when she said it that it could be taken the other way.
She just said right, and it was in poor taste, and it was like, yes, it could definitely have been taken racist, but she didn't mean it that way.
I've texted things to people where they responded a certain way, and I go, oh, that's not how I meant that. And they responded, and I thought, it never even occurred to me that that's how you could interpret that. But yeah, I guess that's how you interpreted it.
Nobody gives anybody the benefit of the doubt.
No.
Well, especially
in that case, she's making
in
fun
media, right? She was trying to do the opposite.
She's being the opposite, and then no one can, and they'll never, and people will not let go.
And it can't be turned back around. I mean, that's it. It's done for. I mean, that's it. So it's a really interesting TED Talk. We're going to put it on our social media.
Oh, cool.
It really moved me. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all we got to say about this topic. We could keep going and going, but...
Hey, Matt, you were about to say something there, weren't you?
No, all I was going to say is just, like you were saying that there's, a responsibility when you're kind of in the public spotlight. I think, the same thing applies to just somebody tweeting something. Like, don't go for the jugular. Like, have some human decency. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Like, otherwise, you're not any better than every other troll on the internet.
But you feel validated. You feel validated because the rest of your Twitter followers say, yeah, you're right, they're racist. Yeah, you're right, they're promoting whatever.
But this is why people stop listening to some people. Like I told you earlier, there are certain people that, and I'll throw the name out, like Al Sharpton. Can you imagine him ever walking into a situation and going, in this case, I don't really think it was racist. I don't even know if he'd know how to say that sentence, which is unfortunate because I'd love to listen to him, but I don't even take him seriously anymore because I don't think he's capable of just saying things, of giving people the benefit of the doubt. It's impossible. He will see anything that he can possibly, and that's the kind of thing where, for people like me, you lose me instantly when I realize that you refuse to give anybody the benefit of the doubt on anything. You don't listen to anything else. You have your one agenda that you're after, and facts. We don't need facts. We want our agenda move forward. And it's that same thing. They'll get mad and upset over because once again, it gets back to, you see what you're trained to look for, and you don't see anything else. So when that tweet you were talking about came out, there was probably a bunch of people that go, "That's right, white people have it so well off," and she, at least she sees that. And there were a group of people that go, "Wow, she's so racist because she's attacking black," and it was like it probably depended completely on your frame of reference. And you see what you've trained yourself to see.
Yeah, so we're asking people to just take a breath and take the benefit of the doubt.
Thank you.
Put away your pitchforks.
And open up a dialogue of curiosity, where you just say, what did you mean by that? And then if they articulate that they are in fact a horrible sexist racist, then pull out your pitchfork.
Yeah,
and if they don't, and they say, oh, I didn't realize you were going to see that way, I'm so sorry that hurt you, then say, thank you for understanding who I am. And now you've learned something, and people
own up to being a racist. Plenty of people are proud of being racist and being sexist, and they will gladly tear apart women. And if somebody says, I meant that just like somebody says that's not what I meant, I'm sorry. Believe them and show them why what they said was offensive.
You come from a world different than my own. You've had different experiences. This is what this meant to me, and that hurt me. And then they're going to feel bad. People don't want to hurt each other. That's my personal belief is that most people do not want to hurt each other.
We'd love to hear your comments on our Facebook page, YouTube channel. Please subscribe, like our Facebook page. Our website is lastcatherine.com. You can get to the audio and video. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, you can get to all the audio files and download them on lastcatherine.com, so you don't have to watch it. And vice versa, if you'd rather watch it and you're just listening to it, you can find the links on the website. They're all on YouTube.
Yep. And tweet at us at lastcatherine. Yes. I manage that one, so just so you know who you're talking to. That one's me.
Very good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.